Hi there, welcome to A Well-Purposed Woman. I'm Elizabeth and thank you for joining us. Today I'm going to show you how to take old tin cans from your Thanksgiving Day dinner and turn them into beautiful home decor items for Christmas. And just so we can stay in touch, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. Otherwise, let's get started on making these beautiful crafts for Christmas. The first craft we're going to be making is a yarn tin can. So for this craft, you're going to want to use an ordinary tin can, chunky yarn. This is a size 7 and that's from Hobby Lobby, a hot glue gun and glue sticks, and then you're going to want some sort of paint or primer. I used the spray primer. You could also use an acrylic paint and a brush. I started by taking my tin cans outside and spraying a thin coat of the primer. Once the cans were primed, I let them dry and brought them back inside, and then I applied hot glue on the bottom of each of the cans and I attached it to some cork board. I took my X-Acto knife and then I cut around the perimeter of the tin can so that the tin can has a nice cork bottom, and this just adds a higher end touch to the tin cans and it'll help it sit nicely on your table or mantelpiece. Once I had the cork on the bottom, then it was time to start attaching the chunky yarn. So I just put a blob or whatever of the hot glue and I attached the chunky yarn. I held it in place for a couple seconds until it was set. And then I just continued to take my hot glue and go around the perimeter of the can. And I did, where the cork board was cut, I kind of did wrap on the side of that just to hide any imperfections I had when I had cut out the cork. So it kind of did a nice job of making it have a nice clean look. And so I just continued hot gluing it and then holding the chunky yarn in place until I covered the entire can. And that worked pretty well. I did sometimes hold the yarn a little bit longer just to make sure that it was adhering nicely to the can. And I did have to be careful, like when I came to the end of or where the yarn was meeting, then I just kind of started the next row. You could also just cut off the yarn at that point and then do another row, because when you just continuously wrap the yarn, you do end up possibly going at a little bit of an angle because you're moving up to the next row. So you could cut it off at this point and then just wrap it again with another strip of the yarn. I think next time I actually would probably do it that way, but this worked okay and it turned out pretty nicely still. And then once I came to the top of the can, I just covered the top of the can with one more row of the yarn. This is just to avoid any like ouchy edges or whatever from the tin can. So the yarn just covered it up nicely and gave me a nice soft outer rim. And I like how it turned out. It's just really warm and cozy and perfect for a little Christmas tree or greens for Christmas. And you could add additional things, but I like it kind of just with the chunky yarn, so I'll keep it like that for now. This second craft is even easier than the first. All you're going to do is take the sleeve of a sweater and put the tin can inside the sweater sleeve. Then you're going to take the sleeve of the sweater and just push it down into the can. Once I liked the way the sweater looked, then I took my scissors and just trimmed around the edge of the tin can. I left about a ½ inch so that I could fold the sweater over when hot gluing. But once I was satisfied with how it looked, then I just took my hot glue gun and I started to hot glue the sweater to the outside of the can. And again, I did kind of cover part of that cork just to make it look nice and clean. I just folded the end of the sweater just a little bit and then hot glued it into place all around the perimeter of the can. And that was pretty much all there was to covering this can with the sweater. Although after covering the can with the sweater, I felt like the bottom needed a little extra trim. So I took this white and gold ribbon and I just hot glued it around the bottom of the can. And I felt like the ribbon added something a little bit extra to the can, like kind of just not as sharp as I would like to around the edges. So I wanted to cover up some of that imperfection. So I used this fuzzy ribbon, which I think is really cute. And I think it was just the touch that my can needed. And to fill these tin cans, I just put some little frosted Christmas trees in them. And I think they just look perfect for winter, just warm, cozy, and just so sweet. And who would ever think that they were just made from a tin can? They're just deceptively really pretty and cozy for winter. So for this next project, you're also going to want to cover your can with white paint, primer, or chalk paint to cover up all the shininess from the metal. So I used mandarin orange tin cans because they were the same size as this little birch log. And I covered the bottoms with the cork again. I just hot glued it on into place. And then I took the little birch logs that are attached in like a line or a row, and I hot glued those on to the side of the can. And I accidentally forgot to hit record as I was doing this. So unfortunately, I didn't show you the first two I made, but I can kind of demonstrate. I just took the primer, covered the can, and then I took the little birch logs and I just hot glued each log one at a time around the can, just pushing the logs close together so that you don't see any gaps in between the logs. And you could also use a little sticks on the table there. And the most important thing is just making sure that the size of the log matches the size of the can so that you're not seeing any of the can. Or if you do that, the can is covered with paint or primer. Now you can use these for candles, but what I did is I cut off some floral foam and just put in the bottom of the can. And then I will just stick some Christmas picks into it. After adding the Christmas picks, I did feel like the center could use a little touch. So I used some lace I had on hand and just tied a bow around the center of the birch logs. Then I took a little wooden name tag and I just attached that to the ribbon, and that would be a cute place to put someone's name, or you could put joy or something, a message for Christmas. And here they are all finished up. I cannot believe these were made from mandarin orange containers. They are just so cute. So for this next project, you're just going to use ribbon. So any type of ribbon that you have. And then we're just going to wrap the ribbon around the tin can. I didn't actually spray paint this or paint it beforehand. I just took the ribbon, and the plan was to cover the entire can with the ribbon. So you can use red, white, any color of ribbon that you want. I really liked this little furry, fuzzy white ribbon with the gold. So I just used that to cover up the can. And it's actually kind of a similar project to using the yarn, but you just use ribbon instead. And you can use a wide assortment of ribbons. I chose to just use this one type of ribbon because I really liked how it looks warm and cozy, and that kind of complemented the previous two cans I did so that they all work nicely together for my Christmas decor. But you could really use any type of ribbon that you want and just make it look exactly how you want it. I think some cute little red and white ribbon and just alternating that on the can would be super cute. So I might try that as well. But just hot glue the ribbon onto the can. So you take the hot glue, put it on the can, wrap the ribbon. It's as simple as that. So I also wanted to cover the bottom of this can with the cork. So I put it in place on the cork, and then I just used an X-Acto knife again and cut around the circle of the cork and attached it onto the bottom. And then I just hot glued the bottom of the can, or the ribbon, onto the bottom of the can. And again, I kind of did wrap a little bit of the ribbon around the cork just to give it the nice clean finish. That was so easy to do, and it looks so elegant next to this other yarn can, and you would just never guess that this was actually a can of green beans before it became this beautiful planter for this little Christmas tree. Just so stunning and so simple to do. But I have to tell you, this next one is one of my favorites. So take your tin can and cover it with a sock or some sort of material so that you really can't tell it's a tin can. And I found that socks of any kind really work perfectly with like a 15 to 16 ounce can. Just cover it completely with the sock, cut off any of the extra sock, and then just go ahead and stuff the top of the sock into the can. And you can hot glue it into place just so that the sock doesn't move around once you get going here. So just hot glue all the sides of the sock. Now that you have your sock covered, just set it aside because now we're going to be making the gnome's hat. So take a piece of fabric that will fit the pattern, and you can find the pattern below, and just cut out that pattern on buffalo check or any type of fabric that you think will look cute for your gnome's hat. Now with your right sides together, you're just going to take your hot glue gun and glue the two edges of the triangle together. And this is going to form your gnome hat. So just take the hot glue and run it along the edge of the triangle. Then you can just set aside the gnome's hat for now so that it can dry a little bit. And we're going to take your faux fur and we're going to cut off the triangle piece, which is going to be the bottom or the beard of our gnome. So you're going to take the tin can that's covered with the sock, and then you're just going to take some hot glue and you're going to hot glue the little beard onto the bottom half of your tin can. Now go back to your gnome hat and turn it right sides out. So now that all the gnome parts were complete, it was time to assemble my gnome. So I started by filling the top of the hat with polyfill. I placed it on the tin can to see what it would look like, and it seemed like a good fit. So then I decided to assemble the gnome. So I took a small piece of floral foam and I stuck it into the center of the tin can. Then I took a little wooden dowel and set it in the middle of the foam, and that helped to prop the hat upright. And then once I liked the position of the hat, then I took my hot glue gun and I just went around the perimeter of the hat with the hot glue gun, gluing and holding it in place for several seconds so that it's a nice, strong attachment. So the last step in assembling my tin can gnome was to hot glue the nose onto the center of the gnome. So I just put a little bit of hot glue on it and I held it in place for several seconds. And now I had a really cute gnome from my green beans tin can. Isn't he so cute? And just think, you could probably make a whole family of gnomes just from the green bean casserole you make for Thanksgiving, because it's so simple with these tin cans. And they look great and they sit up really well because the bottom is a nice base to sit on a table or mantle. So just so cute. With this next project, I used a French onion can, so I'm sure you'll have some of these after Thanksgiving. So after removing the wrapper of the can, I attached the cork to the bottom of the tin can. The next thing I did was take my burlap roll, and this is a 5.5 inch by 15 feet roll, but it was just a remnant of a wreath I had made. And so I just folded the edge of the burlap and ran a line of the hot glue along the French onion can, and then I just glued the burlap in place. And then my plan was to fold the top of the edge over the French onion can, but looking back, I actually maybe would suggest just trimming off the burlap until the top of the can, and then using some type of ribbon or embellishment to cover the edge versus folding it over. It ended up not sticking in place completely as easily as I had thought, but it was fine. I just think I would, next time I do it, I will probably trim the edge on top of the can instead of folding it over. And here I am just folding the top of that burlap over onto the top of the can and just hot gluing it into place. The next thing I did was take some black and white Christmas paper, and I just filled the inside of the can with the Christmas paper just to disguise the inside of the can even more. Next, I took a black pipe cleaner and I just hot glued it around the top of the can. And this just hid any remaining portion of the tin and made it look nice and neat on top. To make the can look nice and neat on the bottom, I took a small strip of black velvet and I hot glued that in between the cork and the burlap just to give it a nice, cohesive, clean look. This can would look great for lots of different things, but I decided that I was going to use it for floral greens. So I put a pretty bunch of floral greens in the center of the can. And then as a final touch, I took a strip of burlap ribbon and just hot glued that around the center of the can. And I felt like the burlap color kind of broke up the buffalo check and gave it a really nice touch. You could add something like this Joy to the World picture or other things to the center. But I left it just kind of simple like this, and I am about 100% sure that no one would ever guess that this was a French onion tin can to start with. Isn't it so cute? It's neutral and cute for Christmas. I just love it. So for this craft, you're going to want sheet music or antique looking writing from a book. You're going to measure the can on to the sheet music, and then you're going to cut off a slightly smaller section of the sheet music to fit onto the can. And if you can tell with this tin can, I did spray paint it with a hammered bronze color. You could use black or any type of dark metal to cover the can, and you can do that and let it dry before attaching the sheet music. Then take a hot glue gun and attach your sheet music onto the can. Then repeat that same process to fill the inside of the can and cut the paper about a 1/2 inch shorter than the height of the can just to leave a little bit of the darker metal shining through the top of the can. Then take Mod Podge and a foam brush and just Mod Podge the paper onto the inside of the can. Continue to Mod Podge the inside of the can and the outside of the can until the can is completely covered with the Mod Podge. To add a little extra to this music sheet can, I took some gold glitter and just sprinkled it on top of the Mod Podge, kind of randomly, not perfectly evenly, across the sheet music. Then I actually hot glued a lace ribbon around the center of the can, and I took that little Joy to the World picture that I had in some of the other videos, and I Mod Podged that into the center of the can, and I think that just added a really cute touch. Then I added some black ribbon to the bottom of the can. I had purchased these mini pine cones and this mini Christmas tree at IKEA, and it just fits so perfectly into this can that I decided I would use this little tree and this can as a planter for this little tree. And the last step I did was take these mini pine cones and just hot glue them onto the sides of the can. And this turned out to be one of my favorites of all the cans. It was started as a cream of mushroom can, and now it is just boutique worthy. It is so cute. It's nice, high quality, and just so sweet for this little Christmas tree and for part of the Christmas decor this year. Okay, here we go on another one. This one is just as pretty as the other ones. It's a lace tin can, and it's also made out of a French onion can. We're going to start by covering this can with plain white paper, and then we're going to also cover the inside with scrapbook paper or any paper you have lying around. So just measure the can and just cover it inside and out. This can is actually going to resemble the yarn and the ribbon cans. We are just going to layer lace on the side of the can. And so I just took out all my vintage lace and I kind of just played around with different combinations of the lace on the can, but just hot glue the lace into place and then wrap it around once you like the way it looks, and just continue to play with your lace on your can until you get a look that you really like. When layering your lace, you can use as little or as much as you prefer. Just try to cover up all the paper. Once I was satisfied with the look of the lace, then I just took some twine and I looped it around the can a couple of times, and then I tied it into a little bow. And I think that just added a cute little rustic look. I then hot glued the cork on the bottom of the can, again to add a little extra. I used some pine cones and sleigh bells, and I attached those to the bow on the twine along with a little name tag made out of wood. And my plan was to add some Christmas picks to this can as well. It's super cute also for any type of present. You could do a little gift bag with a spatula and some sort of baking products, or use it for hot cocoa or different gift ideas in a can. And the last little thing I had to do was take some chalk paint, and I quickly painted around the top of the can so that you didn't see any of the metal showing through. And this can was definitely transformed from a French onion can to a shabby chic little lace planter that you can use in home decor for Christmas. This next craft is super simple and it's a fun one to do with children. Start by covering your can with the chalk paint or acrylic paint or spray paint, something that is white or a similar shade of white, because you're going to put Mod Podge on top of the can. And then we're actually going to sprinkle some fake snow onto the can. And this will give your can a snowy effect. And so just take the Mod Podge and continue to apply it around the entire can, and then sprinkling the snow on as you go. And this will hold the snow in place so that the can has a snowy look to it, and it ends up being really cute. The next thing I did was just cover the inside of the can. So I just took some scrapbook paper, measured it out, and then just filled in the center of the can with the scrapbook paper just to give it a nice finished look. And then I just hot glued it into place. Once the Mod Podge is dry, then you can embellish the can. I started by using a brown linen ribbon and just wrapped it around the can and hot glued it in place. Then I took the baker's twine and I wrapped it a couple times around the linen ribbon and tied it into place. To give the top of the can a more finished look, I took this little evergreen branch from the Dollar Tree and I just wrapped that around the top of the can and glued it into place. Then I used a couple of little bells and I tied them onto the center of the baker's twine. I just thought it needed a little something extra in the center, so I just used these rusty bells I had on hand. And you could use any type of little embellishment. You could use a pine cone, acorns, and just glue it into place. And then in the center of the baker's twine, I did just apply a little snowflake that I had on hand. The last thing I did was fill the can with some Christmas picks, and you could fill it with really anything that you wanted. I did make a second can with a couple variations. I started by drilling 2 holes on the side of the can, and then before painting the can, I took a snowflake and I Mod Podged it in the center of the can. And once that had dried, then I painted over the snowflake and the rest of the can with chalk paint. In the 2 holes that I drilled, I inserted a little beaded hanger that I had taken off a sign from the Dollar Tree so that it was a cute little holder for the can. Then I took some sandpaper and I just roughed up the sides of the can a little bit, just scuffing up the top edges and the sides and just around the can. Then I took some antiquing wax and just rubbed it around the can to give it an aged, more rustic look. I finished the can by following the steps in the first can. I applied the Mod Podge and the snow on the outside of the can, and then I filled the center with scrapbook paper and the top with the evergreen sprigs. And I did attach a little Let It Snow on the side because I thought that was cute. And look how they turn out. They are just really stunning and cute, and you would never expect these just to be ordinary cans. So I think they are super cute. They're just dressed up for Christmas, and they do such a nice job of holding these little Christmas sprigs. This last craft is super simple, but it has a really nice effect. You're going to start by just drilling 2 holes on the can, so 1 on each side of your can, and then you're going to take the can outside and spray paint it in black. Now the black looks really nice on these cans, and once the black paint dries, take some jute twine and tie it through those holes. And you could actually just use it at this point for utensils or something at your Christmas table. It's really cute. You could tie a ribbon around it and call it good. I think this looks really cute with this boho inspired webbing. And then you could put a little word or embellishment on the ribbon. I actually just ended up tying some twine with rusty bells along or around the can, and this was my little embellishment for the can. I just didn't feel like this can needed much. It was just so pretty already with the black spray paint and the jute twine. And I just added that little believe sign to the center of the can, and I just went with simple because I thought and liked how it looked. So I placed it with hot glue in the center of the can, and then once it dried, then I just took some Mod Podge and just really cemented that word onto the can. And it was super simple and easy, but the black spray paint is so stunning. It just ended up looking really cute, and you can put a tree in it, you could put candy canes, you could put baking utensils and give it as a gift. So many options. And here's a final look at all of these creations that we made just from using our Thanksgiving Day cans. I mean, it is really honestly kind of surprising even to me how beautiful you can turn these ordinary cans into this lovely Christmas decor that really is unrecognizable once you have it all dressed up for Christmas. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you again.